the ball came loose. We went up and down a second time. And when I came by Tony, the ball came loose again. I said, Tony, come on, man. Come on, protect the basketball. Put it underneath your chin. Get your elbows out. Don't let anybody take it away. I went up and down at the rows the third time. No one lost their basketball except who? Tony. Ball came loose. Now I'm perturbed. I'm really upset. And I need this boy to participate so I can get my point across. So I said to him, Tony, protect the basketball. Protect it like it's your most prized possession. In fact, Tony, what is your most prized possession at your house? I mean, is it your Xbox? Is it your iPhone? Is it your laptop? What is it? Tony stepped forward to participate. He adjusted his glasses. He put his hands on his hips, and he said, I would have to say it's our refrigerator. He said, because we need food to sustain us, and that's where we keep our perishables. Go run a lap, Tony. So as a speaker, you have to be careful with participation. But participation is a way to get your audience involved. How can we get an audience involved? Help me out here. If you're in my position here, how can you get the audience involved? What can you get them to do? Yes, sir?
Ask questions.
Ask questions. Great way to get the audience involved. The best thing about asking a question is it gives the audience a chance to find out if you, the speaker, know how to listen. Know how to listen. Because if you ask it in a survey manner, and then use that data throughout the rest of your presentation, this is a form to connect with the audience, because the audience just found out you not only speak well, you know how to listen well. And audiences really appreciate a speaker who knows how to listen. Say, I got it. All right, okay. How else can we get an audience to participate?
By asking them to raise their hand.
Asking them to raise their hand. Asking them to move. Asking them to move. I believe there's two ways to get an audience to participate. One is inclusive and one is intrusive. Okay? Inclusive versus intrusive. Inclusive is a way that gets them to do it on a volunteer basis very, very easily. Okay? Intrusive is where you pick on people who didn't ask to be part of it. I personally think it's wrong to just say you and say something. You didn't come here for that. Unless I gave you a heads up before you got here, you're sitting down expecting to listen. Just like when I'm in your seat, I'm expecting to listen. So I think it has to be a way where they're included naturally. An example of intrusive participation. Have you ever been to one of those seminars at the Honda Center, one of those Get Motivated seminars? Anybody? Yeah. You been to those?
Only once.
Yeah, those type of things?
Yeah.
So I'm at the Honda Center, and they have these speakers, and there's like 17,000 people there. And during the break, I'm speaking with these young ladies sitting next to me. They're from a real estate office. And we're just having a conversation. Now, when the speaker comes back on, he all of a sudden says, everybody stand up. So everybody stands up. And he says, put your hand next to the person next to you. Well, there's no one on my left. I'm here by myself. And these three ladies are over here. Two of them pair up. And so now this one's stuck with me. So here we are putting our hands, look, you're making a face. That's not making me squirm. I know what you mean. We're putting our hands like this. Two complete strangers standing there with their hands against each other. It was very awkward. Neither one of us wanted to do this. Okay, maybe I did. But she didn't. She didn't. So this is an example of intrusive participation. Say, I got it. Okay, we've covered three things so far as we move along very quickly. Purpose, preparation, participation, and the fourth one is pace. Pace. The pace of your presentation. Would you agree with me that a good presentation has a nice flow?
Yes.
Would you agree with that? And in Toastmasters, they teach you vocal variety. Vocal variety, how to use your voice in a way that keeps your audience involved, so that you're just not that you're raising your voice, you're lowering your voice, but it also involves cadence. Because there are times in your presentation where a rapid-fire delivery is appropriate, and there's times in your presentation where a very slow, deliberate pace is appropriate. And the use of pause. Pause is a powerful tool anytime you're in front of an audience, especially in a meeting, when you really want them to get this. If this is the thing you want them to know, you've got to pause and give them a chance to get it. I believe that silence follows substance. Every time you're speaking, every time you're conducting a meeting, when you get to that thing that you know you want them to get, you've got to pause. That's pace. The fifth element in the P5 system, we have talked about purpose, preparation, participation, pace, and the final element is persuasion. Persuasion. This is the big one. This is the big one. This is why we got together. This is why one of us is up here yapping. Because we want to persuade this group to do something, think something, or feel a certain something when we're done talking. We need to persuade. But we cannot persuade unless we establish credibility and connection. Credibility and connection. So how do we establish credibility? We establish credibility by sharing our professional credentials. In the introduction, you heard a little bit about my professional credentials. The audience has to know very early why they should listen to you. Why they should listen to you. I heard a speech this morning where a gentleman gave a whole bunch of statistics about life in America today in regards to how families are structured, in terms of how many women, men or women are working in the household, stat after stat after stat after stat after stat, which was quite interesting, but he never told us why we should listen to him. Where did he get this data? Where did he do his research? Is this his business? So you must let the audience know. How are we doing, Vanessa?
You're doing fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I was talking about time. We're okay?
Yes.
Not quite 15.
You just hit the 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. So on the persuasion element, we have to establish with credentials. Our credentials, we have to let them know why they should listen to us, and then we have to establish connection. The personal part that gets people to listen to you. In my introduction, if you notice, I made a joke about my 4 kids, so that you have an idea right off the bat that I have a personal life, and you know something about me personally, whether you have kids or don't have kids, or even like kids, you know that I am a father of 4, so that we began the connection process. Do you agree with me on that? Do you understand that? Say I got it. Okay, so those are the 5 elements that I really believe in, and I will email you detailed information on all of this. And this is what I do in corporate training today, is I go into companies and I work with them as a group, and I train their people on how to conduct themselves in front of an audience, whether they're giving a speech, a formal presentation, or conducting meetings. P5. Now we'll transition into the second half of my presentation. And the second half of my presentation is to share with you a little bit about my personal journey and what I learned along the way that I think might make a difference to you. When I was 22 years old, I decided to quit college. My mother is still shaking her head. She still loves it. Not a good decision, but after I decided to quit college, I decided to go travel. And by the time I was 24 years old, I had already stepped foot in 35 states, 5 provinces of Canada. I had slept in my truck on the side of the road. I even lived in a cave above the Snake River in Idaho for a week. So I got around, and during that time, I worked all sorts of types of jobs. All kinds of jobs. I picked fruit, I loaded trucks, I worked at a produce market, I worked at a chicken ranch. Now the chicken ranch, this is very interesting, at the chicken ranch, the chickens, when they get loose from their cages, end up down in the basement. Dozens and dozens of chickens in the basement. And what you have to do, if you work there, is you have to go into that basement, they turn the lights off so they can't see you, and you got to sneak up, and you got to swoop them up from the feet and hold them like this, and once they go upside down, they'll become passive. Now, notice I said you got to go get those chickens and swoop them up. Can you imagine what's on the ground in a chicken ranch? Can you imagine? Do you see the image right there? That's the kind of jobs that I did. I also did telemarketing. I did sales. I did in-home sales. I did retail sales. I did a little bit of everything. I worked pulling orders in a warehouse. I worked as a shipping manager, as a traffic manager. And here's what I learned along the way. There were a lot of people that I worked for during that time that were not nice people. They were unscrupulous bosses. They ripped people off. They treated people poorly, including myself. There are a whole bunch of jerks. And I think that that's one thing we have to understand along the way. Maybe some of you will be fortunate enough, maybe you never worked for a jerk. But I worked for a whole bunch of them. But what I learned is bad bosses rock. Bad bosses rock if you're open to learning. If you learn from the leaders in front of you. Every time that there's someone in front of you, whether they're a strong leader or a poor leader, it's a chance for you to learn. During those days, as I did a variety of different jobs in different places, one day a man introduced me to someone, and he said, "This is Rob, he works for me." That did not sit well with me. It did not arrive to my ears in a comfortable way. And I didn't believe at that time, and I don't believe now, that any of us work for anybody. I believe that each one of us are our own enterprise, which is why I entitled this presentation, Brand You, Building the Enterprise That Is You. How to separate yourself in this crowded marketplace. You are an enterprise bringing your skills to the marketplace, to someone who needs them. And I learned from every bad boss I ever had. I also learned to do the dirty jobs. I hope you never have to pick up chickens. But there are other jobs along your way, through your career path, that are dirty jobs in different ways. As long as it's ethical, do it. Give it a shot. Do the job that someone else is not willing to do. Because it was a great learning experience for me. After being introduced as somebody working for someone, I told myself, no, I'm going to have my own business one day. At the age of 34, I started my own business. My brother and I started a courier company, same-day delivery service. Does anybody know, anybody familiar with using a courier or a messenger service? Anybody? Okay. A courier is a company that picks up your package today and delivers it today. So as UPS delivers it the next day, we do it today. Anywhere in Southern California. So on that first day, my brother and I started our business, and we were so excited, just the two of us. And so he sat by the phone while I went out and knocked on doors and tried to get some customers. On that very first day, while I was out knocking on doors, the phone rang twice. It was his wife and my wife. On day 2, as I went out knocking on doors, the phone rang twice. His wife and my wife. On day 3, the phone rang 3 times. It was his wife, my wife, and a woman by the name of Anita Long. She wanted to place an order. My brother was so excited he put her on hold. After he regained his composure, he took her order, and then you never saw 2 grown men so excited over $8.75. But we were off and running. We had a business. And from that point forward, we had to build this business and add people. And the second lesson that I learned along the way is that you manage tasks, you lead people. I was not prepared for the task of leading people, especially in a business like ours that is so labor intensive. By 1998, we were the largest company of its kind in Orange County, with 160 employees doing 1,000 deliveries a day. Pretty substantial little business. Still a little business, pretty substantial. 160 people that I had to lead. And I learned the task of leading these people. And I learned in interviewing people along the way. And I believe it's true. It was true then, and it's true now. And as you sit before a prospective employer, I sit in that chair. I have interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people. And here's the mistake some of them make. Number 1, they mistake features with benefits. Now in sales, that is like sales 101. But as a person building the enterprise that is you have to understand that. Your experience and your education is wonderful, but those are features. They're not benefits to me if I'm going to consider hiring you. When you come in the door and talk to me, you have to show me what you're going to do for me, how your experience and how your education is going to benefit my enterprise. And I've had people come in the door and say, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, aren't I wonderful? No, not really, because none of that's going to benefit my company. The second thing that and you might have heard this, but I'm telling you, I've interviewed so many people, and this is what I look for with people. You've probably heard this before. Attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching? Right? I'm sure you've heard that at Disney. I'm sure they talk about that. Attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching? I've had so many people come in who are talented and experienced and have a poor attitude. And they kind of make the mistake that I just mentioned about speaking, and that is they make it all about them instead of making it about my company. What can you do for this company? So that's just a little bit about what I learned along the way. We took that company, we sold it in 1998 to a group that took it public. We got 25% cash, 75% stock. It was restricted stock, which meant we couldn't have the stock for 2 years. The stock opened at $13 a share, it quickly went to $26 a share. We were holding 90,000 shares. Don't hurt yourself. That's about $2.5 million worth of paper. Worth of paper. 2 years later, when that stock became free and open to us, it was worthless. It was worthless. The new people had run the business into the ground. We turned around, we bought the company back, we built the company back up again, and then a man came to us in 2007 and said, "Do you want to sell your company?" We said, "It's not for sale." He said, "I'll give you this much." We said, "Yes, it is for sale." This time it was cash, so we sold the company for cash, and now I stay there and I help the new owner who I sold it to. He has a health problem. I run the business for him, and I also do corporate training. I'm almost out of time, and so I want to finish with this. I gave a speech on Tuesday before Christmas. And my friend Marcy, the one that I told you about, I'm sure that she heard the speech, but she could not comment on it because it was her eulogy. And when I looked at the front of the congregation at Rose Hills in Whittier, where her and I grew up, and I saw over 200 people, the aisles were full, I could hear Marcy saying to me, "Speak fearlessly." And I did. I truly believe that if we go through life and we learn how to speak fearlessly, how to love openly, and how to resolve to learn along the way, that that's a good way to live. My name is Coach Rob, and I really appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.